Dig deeper on the topics that were on the table for this meeting and the stakes. Joining me, Fareed Zakaria, host of Fareed Zakaria GPS. Also, CNN national security commentator Mike Rogers, a former U.S. congressman who served as chair of the House Intelligence Committee. So, Fareed, so much has been made about the body language that Vladimir Putin uses when he meets with President Obama, or their toast today, the clink. Was it a joyful clink or not? But we've gone so far beyond that. I mean, the Russians have planes, warplanes in Syria. They could be about to bomb there. So this meeting between the two leaders is way more significant than body language.
It's way more significant, and I think we've reduced foreign policy sometimes to psychotherapy, where we think it's just all about the relationship between these two guys. Obviously, there's a personal element, but fundamentally, the issue is that Russia and the United States have been at loggerheads, have had very conflicting views of the situation, of their interests in the situation in the Middle East, with regard to Ukraine, and there has to be some clarity brought to that. You know, how can you find some areas of common agreement? How can you find some common interests? And I think that, you know, that's probably where the serious business of the meeting was.
And Mike, you know, they couldn't even agree on who asked for the meeting. Josh Earnest, the White House press secretary, said that the Russians, Vladimir Putin, was desperate to meet. Is that part of the problem here?
I mean, this is almost sophomoric that the White House would even gauge about who wanted the meeting or who didn't want the meeting, candidly. This is a serious problem. So Russia has been very, very clear from the very beginning what they wanted in Syria, even when we had lots of leverage there, or at least more leverage than we do today. They wanted the warm water port in Tartus. They wanted the Syrian president to stay, and they wanted to continue to secure those armament deals, especially on the anti-aircraft stuff. This is exactly what they worked for. I would argue this is the first order problem from the Iran deal. Russia believed after that deal that they had this relationship with Iran, and they already had a relationship in Syria that they could leverage with Iraq. That's exactly what they did. So all of that body language, all of that is saying we're large, we're in charge, and by the way, we are now putting a coalition together, and United States, we'd like you to join us in how you defeat ISIS. And that's, to me, the biggest turn of what happened today.
You know, Fareed, it's interesting. You heard Mike Rogers lay out what he thinks Vladimir Putin wants inside Syria in the region. Is one of the problems right now is that it's not clear what the White House exactly wants inside Syria?
Well, that's always been the problem. You know, we have moral clarity on Syria, but strategic incoherence, by which I mean we're against the bad guys. Don't get me wrong. We're against Assad, bad guy. We're against ISIS, al-Nusra, Al-Qaeda, Khurasan, you know, all the Al-Qaeda affiliates. But we're against the Iranian militias there. We're against Hezbollah's fighters there. But who are we for? What are we in favor of? It's not entirely clear. We have this hope that there is some moderate Syrian force there. What Putin's strategy is basically to say, I have an ally, and that's Assad. I have an enemy, and that's ISIS and the other Islamic terror groups. And that's basically the same view that the Iranians have. That's basically the same view the Iraqi government has. They all have the same enemies and the same allies. So they're saying, let's band together. We can wring our hands, but the problem is we have a strategically incoherent position. We're against everybody in Syria. And frankly, I think the advocates of intervention have to explain, who are we for? We're going to go into a country with significant military force. What are we going to do? We're going to fight for the 50-odd moderate Syrians we've been able to find.
Literally 50.
Right.
Literally 50. So, Mike, it's interesting. Donald Trump today told our Aaron Burnett, said, Assad to me looks better than the other side. He's talking about ISIS. If that is in fact the case, if Vladimir Putin is willing to fight ISIS in Syria, can the United States get something out of this?
I agree with Fareed. It is incoherent. When you ask our Arab League allies, the first question you get back from them is, hey, what is the United States policy? What are you doing? Who are we for? Who are we against? So listen, Trump is tapped into one thing. It is probably likely that if you want a diminished or at least an accelerated end to the Syrian problem, you are going to have to sit down with the Russians.
Fareed, Mike, thanks so much.
Thanks.